Hello everybody, today we are going to play through Pokemon Emerald with only a Spinda. I was surprised to find out that it too has a very even stat spread. That's not great, but at least he has a decently wide move pool. The rules are the same as always. I am only allowed to use the starter Pokemon in combat. I can't use items from my bag in battle. I can't raise my evasion in any way, and I can't use cheats or glitches. First things first, I reduced greatly the number of times the layout flickers by using another emulation core in RetroArch, so it will happen only a couple of times throughout the run. Unfortunately, as far as I can tell, that's a game hook problem, so I'm not sure how to deal with it. The start of the game is somewhat easy for Spinda because it has stab on the normal moves, so it deals a relatively high amount of damage, both for me and the first grunt. Here I found out the hard way that feint attack was spelled differently in the past, so that's why it's not showing properly. I fixed it for this move, but who knows how many others have the same problem. Roxanne would be very hard with only normal moves, but Spinda learned a couple of special ones in the meantime, so she was not that bad. Her rock types still hurt though, mostly her ace, who is a somewhat strong Pokemon for this point in the game. So much so that her BST is slightly higher than mine. Also, she has the potions advantage since she does not have to follow the same rules as we do. Eventually, it goes down too, and we can acquire the first of the gym badges. Not long after Roxanne, we can do the optional fight against May. This time the match was not particularly hard, since I gave her Toxic. The other team member is a Lotad, which is by far the weakest of the three options. Her starter is not weak to Psychic yet, so it took a couple of hits to take her chicken down. Then, even if I am weak to fighting, I decided to challenge the second gym. Since I have Psybeam, who is super effective on most of Brawly's team. The only Pokemon who takes it well is Meditite, but it can't touch me since his only attacking move is a Focus Punch, and I can stop it before he gets it off. I was expecting to take more than 0 damage, but I will take the free win. Next up is May, who as usual is at her strongest. Unfortunately for her, I learned a pretty good move in Dizzy Punch, who has a lot of power and a chance to confuse. In my opinion, it should confuse a bit more often, but it's good enough as it is. Well, time for the hardest fight in the game. The Steel type is very strong for this point in the game, so I have no answers for it, and thanks to some RNG, Watson manages to defeat me. The second attempt goes a bit better. I don't get static-ed by Electric, so I have the opportunity to remove paralysis once. I tried very hard to prevent Magneton from moving by using both Tether Dance and Hypnosis. Fortunately, I can KO the magnet before it uses Thunder Wave a second time, so I will not have to keep fighting with the status effects. His ace is usually not as strong as Magneton, but this time he almost managed to take me out because he just deals a lot of damage and my 60 special defense can't protect me very well. After taking the badge from Watson, we are able to use Rock Smash and explore more of the region. After a bit, we come up to a group of Team Magma and Aqua guys. From there, our next step is atop the volcano to stop the leader of the red team. Archie is a bit annoying, mostly because of his lead Mightyena. I am not going to deal a lot of damage because of Intimidate. I have a special move, but it's psychic type, so he is immune to it. At least the rest of the team is a bit easier. Against them I can use Psybeam, so in a few more turns we are done with him too. Soon after this encounter we have to deal with the next gym leader. This time it's the hot-headed Flannery, who is usually quite strong to be fair. Her first two Pokémons get destroyed in one shot from Daisy Punch, but the last two are another story. For them I was unsure whether to switch to Psybeam or not, because they have more physical defense, but I lose a stab. Here is more proof of her cheating, since she always knows when Body Slam will paralyze. Thanks to some scummy status effects, I am able to come out on top of this one too. Spinda tried to learn Double Edge, but I refused since I believe that's too much power for our little panda bear, and I will surely kill myself with it. Then we have to backtrack a bit to go face our dad. The fight against him starts with a mirror match, but the main attraction is Bigfoot, of course. As usual, I tried to attack only on his loafing turns, so that he could not counter me. This strategy works wonders, but also causes slacking to stay on screen for a long time. That problem is amplified when Norman uses potions on it. This is where I am glad I don't have Double Edge. I would have surely spammed it and lost a bunch of health in a recoil, and then got KO'd by a random facade. Norman's last two Pokémons can't do that much to me, so in a couple more attacks I can wipe them out and proceed with the game. After him, we get the Surf HM, who allows us to reach the next important battle, the May Tree fight. This might be her weakest point in the game. Her team improved a bit, but with only 3 Pokémons, 2 of whom not even fully evolved, there is not much she can do against us, and in no time she gets knocked out too. Spinda can't learn Thunderbolt or Ice Beam, so Winona might be an actual challenge this time. The best I have is Shockwave, coming off of my 60 special attack, so not a whole lot. That's not a problem though, because I can still use Dizzy Punch on most of her team and save the electric moves for the ones who require them, like Pelipper or most importantly Skarmory. Midway through the fight, Spinda tried to learn Trash. I have to say I was tempted, but with only 90 power it's not great, especially because soon I'll get a Return, who will be much better. Altaria laid quite a bit of damage on me, but not enough to defeat me before I do the same to her. After beating Winona and earning the 6th badge, we have to climb the Not Pokemon Tower. Here there is an optional path, it's not required, but you get Shadow Ball at the end of it. Then we have to rush to reach Maxi, but we arrive just a bit too late and see him waking up Groudon. Once the legendary leaves, he attacks us. This time I do have a special move that works on his lead, so overall the fight was not particularly challenging. I am surprised that he did not screw me over with RNG. I guess sometimes I get lucky too. Lastly, he sends out Camerupt, who I believe is supposed to be his ace, but it's not a powerful Pokemon, so the fight quickly ends in our favor. From here I went to another underwhelming fight, the optional one against May in front of them all. By this point in the game, you probably have quite a few levels on her, at least with my playstyle, and a decent moveset, so she should be a pushover most of the time. I guess she could be a bit harder if you are a speedrunner, but it's not like you are going to fight her in that case. Then I wanted to grab Return and grind a bit on the sea so that by the time I reach Tate and Liza, I have a better fighting chance. I also finally used the Shadow Ball TM. It's super effective on all of their Pokémons, so that will be good. Of course, for this fight, I have to use at least one other Pokémon, otherwise they straight up refuse to fight you. Here I usually use whatever is the lowest level Pokémon I have, which leads to them gaining a bunch of levels when I take out one of their Pokémons. To be fair, they turned out to be quite a bit easier than what I expected. The ending was a bit anticlimactic as they kept spamming potions on Claydol, and after a while they finally ran out, so we can move on. Unfortunately, the next fight is even more boring. While it sounds good on paper, you are helping the ex-champion take down the head of a criminal organization, the gameplay does not reflect the epicness at all. Their teams are very bland, consisting of 3 Pokémons, 4 if you consider Golbat 2. It's been a while since I have played other mainline Pokémon games, but I don't recall their teams being this samey. Even Team Rocket from Generation 1 had more variety in Pokémons. I'm usually not into conspiracy theories, but I believe that the real reason Nintendo is going so much after fun games is because they are embarrassed that their games don't hold up against the modded ones made by random people, and so they take them down. After spending some time against the ground grunts, we are given the Dive HM by Steven and have to immediately use it to reach the seafloor cavern where we find Kyogre. As soon as we arrive, we are challenged by Archie. His team is made of Pokémons that we just defeated, so it was not very entertaining. The only difference is Sharpedo, but that guy is weak to electricity, so we don't need to worry about him. So far Spinda is doing a lot better than I expected, but that might be partially because my level is quite high, but that's what happens when you have a fast growth rate. After we defeated Archie, we have to do the whole thing with the legendaries, so that ultimately Rayquaza can save the region. Meanwhile, don't forget to like, share, subscribe and ring the bell if you are enjoying the content. After the cutscene, we have to do the last gym fight of the region against Juan. He turned out to be kinda easy. I have a shockwave, but assuming that the return is even closer to its full power, it will actually do a lot more damage thanks to stab. The only thing that leaves is the usual nuisance Kindra, but thankfully this time his double team strategy does not pay off too well for him. Juan has a bunch of healing for the seahorse. Between rest and potions, the fight against him takes a lot longer than the rest of the team. I am lucky to have enough damage to two-shot Kindra, because if you can't do over half of his HP in one hit, it can become super frustrating. After a while it goes down too, and with that we earned all the badges, and we can start to think about the league. I don't have anything in particular to do before it, so we can start the journey with the Wally fight inside of the Victory Road. He is somewhat easy. At this point, Return does good damage, so most of his team is not a problem. The Magneton leaves because he's steel, but this one prefers to straight up deal damage back to me instead of going for status effects, so it's a lot less dangerous than the previous encounter with him. After defeating Wally and getting through the Victory Road, we can start the main course itself. The first member is Sidney, and since we are using a mostly physical attacker, I am very annoyed by Intimidate. It might have been a good idea to lean more on the special side, but I did not do it yet. Instead, I spent quite a bit of time fighting against his dark Pokémons. I was expecting him to do more damage to me, especially because I don't have a citrus berry equipped. Instead, I barely took any. I did not mention it, but Spinda's nickname is from a Dutch dancer or something like that. Since the name sounded Italian, I had to use it. Next up is Phoebe. I intentionally left Shadow Ball in my moveset for her, otherwise I would not have much to defeat her. Thanks to it, I have just enough damage to take out her lead before it can use Curse. From here, the rest of the team is a lot less dangerous. Even if they land some hits on me, it should not be a problem. I was not sure about the moving sprite at first, but I think I will keep it. It's not too invasive. I'll also have to fix a couple small issues with the layout as soon as I have the time to do it. The third member of the Elite Four is Glacia. She was a bit more dangerous than the previous two. Here it's where the tanky Pokémons start, so I can't take them out in one hit each reliably. Much like with Juan, even if I have a shockwave, I did not end up using it since it does not have enough power. This time my HP got slightly lower than the previous two fights. Hail damage can add up quite a bit if you let it go for all 5 turns. Between that and a few attacks, I got down into the yellow, but that's not quite enough to defeat the Dancing Panda. Drake is last, and here I have to admit I was quite a bit scared about him. His dragons are looking very intimidating. Fortunately, I get a super lucky crit against his lead, so he has no chance to slow me down with Rock Tomb. Thanks to that, I actually have a fighting chance. It was still tough because their PST greatly exceeds mine, but with a bit of luck and poor planning on his part, I was able to take down most of his team. His biggest mistake was to send out Salamence for last. His Intimidate would have been a huge roadblock for me. Once the big boy comes out, I get a spark of hope as Hypnosis lands the first try. Salamence ends up taking a long nap, leaving me enough time to defeat him. I used Shockwave once to skip the potions, and just like that, he is defeated too. All we have left is the champion. For him, I did a last minute move change and switched Shadow Ball for Calm Mind. Since I have a boosting move, you can guess what I did next. I used it a few times against the Waylord after putting it to sleep, so once I reached +3, I felt confident I could sweep the rest of his team. Tentacruel has a lot of special defense, but he also leaves a return. While Wallace heals, I used another Calm Mind, so surely now it will be enough. Again, sending out the Intimidate Pokemon earlier would have been a smart move on his part, because even if I am at +4, I still used quite a few returns. That might have been a mistake on my end, but at the very least I had to do it against Whiscash, since it is immune to electric and I have nothing else to hit him with. After the catfish goes down, the fight is effectively over. The last two Pokémons are weak to electric, but I am surprised to see that Milotic leaves a hit. It does not change the outcome, but it was still impressive. Once the eel is defeated too, we can officially say that Spinda is the champion of the Hoenn region, in a much easier fashion than I expected at the start of the game. Thank you for watching, please leave a like, subscribe, share, ring the bell, and all of that YouTube stuff. I also encourage you to leave a comment with feedback on gameplay or layout. See you next week, bye!